Games with Jeff. All in all, Legion was pretty good to healers. Unless, of course, you played Disc Priest during Nighthold progression, in which case, RIP, you had a hard life. But things got better for Disc Priests in Tomb. The constant mana struggle of Nighthold was gone, and Disc Priests could plea and penance without Blessing of Wisdom and 5 Innervates. Disc Priests were very strong in Tomb and in Taurus progression, present in many of the world first kills, and certain bosses, like Sisters, KJ, Portal Keeper, and Argus, just seemed perfectly suited to the Disc Priest playstyle. But plenty of WoD Disc Priests are saying, "Hey, wait on a damn minute there, Jeff. Legion ruined Disc Priest." It's certainly true that Disc Priests were far more common in WoD than they were in Legion. On the other hand, while Disc started out the expansion in a bad place, they eventually became pretty dang OP, and I played my Disc Priest pretty regularly during Tomb progression. You could say that I have a soft spot for Disc Priest as it is now, in the twilight of Legion. So how does Disc Priest look in the Battle for Azeroth beta? Is it destined to repeat the early failures of Legion Disc Priest? Right now it's hard to say, but one thing is for sure. Disc Priest in Battle for Azeroth is looking very similar to the current Legion counterpart. There are of course a few changes, some of which seem pretty good, some that might not be so great, and one or two which are very tragic indeed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of BFA beta Disc Priest. The very first thing that the beta player will notice, or at least the very first thing I noticed at any rate, is that Power Word Shield no longer has a cooldown. That's right, you can spam Shield on anyone and everyone for 10, 100, or 1000 global cooldowns. WoD Disc Priests rejoice. Blizzard has finally heard you, and it's a happy return to the days of Shield spam. Except no, that's not quite right. The shield is pretty dinky, at least in the current beta build. The old Atonement Applicator plea was removed from the game, but if anything, it's more like plea was just renamed Power Word Shield and changed to an absorb effect instead of a direct heal. So shield spamming might be a thing again, but it's not going to be a very effective thing. And the worst thing, the very, very bad thing, I'm sorry folks, but Light's Wrath is gone. The artifact ability that was probably the most fun ability in Disc Priest's Legion toolkit is gone. And to be honest, I'm not really surprised. A well-timed Light's Wrath was capable of topping off an entire raid team at half health, and with only a short 1.5 minute cooldown, a proficient Disc Priest could alternate between Light's Wrath, Velen's, Rapture, Evangelism, and Shadow Fiend, thereby having a burst cooldown for seemingly every instance it was needed. And although Light's Wrath and the Power Word Shield cooldown are gone, the spell called Rapture isn't. It's just been changed to work alongside the new changes in BFA Disc Priest. In Legion, the spell removed the cooldown of Power Word Shield for 8 or more seconds, something that obviously isn't needed in the new build. Now, in BFA, Rapture instead increases the absorb effect of Power Word Shield by 200%, in effect making your shield spam during Rapture the same as it was in Legion. WoD shield spammers rejoice, but just for 10 seconds every 1.5 minutes. The Disc Priest rotation is likely to be largely unchanged, but now Power Word Shield will be taking the place of plea as the Atonement Applicator. Penancing the boss on cooldown, or close to cooldown after the party takes some damage, won't really change. Disc will be a little bit less bursty with the loss to Light's Wrath, and my guess is that the devs will balance Disc to do a little bit more non-burst Atonement healing to make up for that. Disc Priest will likely be a lot more forgiving in Mythic Plus now because of the shield spam change, and also because of a few dungeon-friendly talents. The Disc Priest talents are mostly the same as they were in Legion, with one or two small differences. The 15 row contains all the same abilities, but some have been buffed while others have been slightly nerfed. Castigation, which was usually taken in farm content, remains unchanged. It makes penance fire an additional 4th bowl of Holy Light. Twist of Faith, the progression talent, also remains unchanged, giving a damage and healing buff after healing low health players. The one-time forgotten talent of the tier, Schism, has been buffed, now increasing the damage that you deal to the target by 40% for 9 seconds. It'll be interesting to see if this buff is enough to make the talent worth it in raids, but I think it might actually be. 40% extra atonement healing does sound pretty impressive. The 30 row remains mostly boring. Most priests will take Angelic Feather for raids, although some might prefer Body and Soul. Masochism may have some niche uses in PvP, but is unlikely to see much use in raiding or Mythic Plus. The 45 tier is mostly the same as before. The choice between a high mana, low HPS talent, that would be Shield Discipline, and the inverse, a high HPS but lower mana return talent, in Mindbender. It'll be interesting to see if the new shield spam style of Disc Priest will allow Shield Discipline to be stronger than it was in Legion. It seems that Blizzard developers have thought of that though, and it now only refunds 0.5% of mana when a shield is fully absorbed instead of the old 1%. The choice between a faster fear, a knockback, and an odd talent that can let you mind control mobs, which has some niche uses in Mythic Plus. The 75 new, 3 new talents, but 2 of them have been seen before in Legion from the artifact weapon and as a PvP talent, respectively. Lenience makes Atonement reduce all damage taken by 3%, which in Legion ended up being pretty decent. Unfortunately, I don't think that this shows up in healing meters. The second talent, Orison, causes Power Word Shield to instantly heal for a small amount upon application. And the last talent, Contrition, causes your defensive penances to also heal other party members who have Atonement. This last talent will almost certainly see heavy use in Mythic Plus, and is a welcome addition to help out Disc Priests on Grievous and Bursting Affixes. I imagine that Orison will be the go-to raid talent. The 90 row is unchanged. Hopefully the devs buff Divine Star and Halo, because I don't think I've bothered talenting into either of them a single time in Legion. They've both been around for quite a while now, I want to say since Mop or so, and I feel like they deserve a little bit better. Finally, the 100 row. Power Infusion was a worthless talent for Disc Priests, and now it's gone, replaced by Luminous Barrier. This talent seems pretty awesome, turning your 3-minute Power Word Barrier into a spell that puts a shield on every party or raid member within 40 yards. It's currently a bit weak in the beta, but I would be surprised if it didn't get buffed. Grace and Evangelism remain unchanged. With the increase of shield spam though, Grace might end up being more viable in raids than it was in Legion. Only time will tell. Overall, it seems like Disc Priest could stay pretty viable in early BFA progression. A lot of this is going to depend on how well the devs balance the spec. In beta testing right now, it feels like Atonement healing is pretty dang weak, and Shadowmen's spam is insanely strong, but I imagine this will be solved in beta tweaks moving forward. I, personally, would really like to see the return of Light's Wrath, but it's probably useless to hold out hope that it'll appear in some high-end Azurite armor half a year from now. You never know though, a Disc Priest can dream. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. This channel, Games with Jeff, is super new, like literally 3 days old, just a baby. Every subscription, like, and view goes a long, long way to helping me make more awesome WoW content. Thank you so much for your help. I've also set up a Patreon where $1 a month will get you everything. That is, mostly just a place to heckle me and order me to cover specific WoW-related topics. A few dollars a month would be super helpful so I could upgrade from free video editing software to the fancy, non-free kind. But please, only donate if you have the money to spare and want to be a true badass in supporting the channel. Thanks so much.